Hey everyone, it's Owen here from Urbane Cyclist, and today we're doing something a little different. We're talking about rain protection and rain gear. So we're talking about my singular favorite item, which is a rain cape, also known as a poncho. So I think ponchos and rain capes can be a bit of a polarizing subject. There seems to be a select number of people that have this absolute aversion to it, and there's people like me who absolutely love them. I've been a long-time poncho or rain cape user, but I did seek out Cleverhood for a specific reason. I'm on the taller side, and I found that a lot of ponchos or rain capes came in a one size fits most. And being on the taller side, I found that I was the small minority that the most didn't quite fit. Sometimes they had quite short backs if they're designed for cycling, often quite long in the front, which is arguably quite good in a more traditional kind of Dutch style positioning where you're kind of, your hands are up and reaching forward. But what I found is they barely covered my back. And one of the things that stood out about Cleverhood was obviously they make great products, they're super fun, they're colorful, there's lots of reasons that I like them, but they actually do a sized option. So there is a short, a regular, and a tall. So unsurprisingly, I chose tall, and I've been very happy with that choice. For most people, regular is going to suffice. You'll notice they also come very small. So this is actually a short poncho, all packed as you see from the factory. They also have very handy size guides. So for example, short is designed for under 5'5", which it says right on here. It's printed in white, so you can see that this is the short. It also tells you the regular and the tall size guide. So that would be under 165 centimeters. Regular is designed for anyone from 5'5" to 6'2", or 165 to 188 centimeters. And then over 6'2", they say just use the tall. That'd be over 188 centimeters. And funny enough, I'm right on the border of regular to tall, but I have a pretty long upper body, long arms, so I find the tall is really perfect for a little extra coverage. So you can see here an example of what it really looks like when, a human repacks it after the fact. It's still extremely small, but it is hard to pack it in quite as small as it was originally. Another fun little tidbit here is we have small sizes for small folks. This is actually a kiddie-sized poncho. So what separates a regular poncho or rain cape from a cycling savvy rain cape? So what we see here is if you look closely, you'll notice there are these little squares that are sewn here. It doesn't really look apparent until you flip it inside out. And what this actually has is some handy little loops. So some people may hook these onto their handlebars, but really these are what they call thumb loops. You're just gonna loop your thumbs in. It gives you a nice control over the front end of the poncho. It also makes it very natural for looping it over the handlebars or removing it. I personally do not like looping anything onto the bike because it gets a little clumsy and difficult when you're actually trying to get off the bike, and it's like you can't really tell where and what is hooked on. So if I find I can just kind of move my hands down, I can feel where those little tabs are, I can easily lift and move. And because they're actually elastic, I can stretch my hands wider, move them around, no problem. They're easy to shake out as well with, minimal obstruction. A secondary feature here, we'll look on this poncho here, is going to be the chest strap. So this optional chest strap is really what makes it optimal for cycling. So all this is a simple nylon strap with a little buckle, and if we flip this inside, you'll notice there's a little belt loop. So all that is effectively a little slot. It's reinforced on all the corners, but all you're gonna do is feed that strap through. So once the strap's through, you can buckle that up and just leave it in there. What I find is this is basically gonna resist that urge for the poncho to kind of fill with air and become kind of like a Superman cape when you're riding a bike. The other nice thing is this has a little bit of weight, which just kind of helps pull it down. So even if you don't put the strap on every time, it at least helps drape the back a little closer just to make sure you stay a little drier. Another couple features here would be centered around the hood. We obviously have this really nice integrated brim. I can demonstrate here on my own. So this I already have kind of cinched. So you can pull these drawstrings in and around, but also adjust the back, which will affect the actual overall shape and size. What's really nice is once you've done this all up, it actually is small enough to fit under a helmet. And the great benefit there is you can have this nice broad and long brim that helps protect any extra moisture from getting on your glasses. So as another glasses user here, I really appreciate that extra coverage. Historically, I've always ridden with just a large brim cycling cap, something I can put really tight against my glasses just to try to keep the most moisture out of my eyes or off my glasses. But this is basically the same solution built right in. So although I would sell this as a fairly singular rain solution, there's one specific item I'd definitely recommend combining this with, and that is full fenders on your bicycle. If you don't have a full fender that wraps around for both your front and rear wheel, you're gonna have additional spray from the road, and that's really not gonna be solved by a poncho. A poncho is from the rain coming down, protecting you from above, but not from below. And a full coverage fender is gonna be the most important additional accessory if you're planning to use something like the Rover Rain Cape for cycling. Another little sidebar is I think a lot of people think, oh, it's a cycling poncho. It's not just a cycling poncho. I personally use this when I go camping, when I'm spending any amount of time outside. You can see how small this is. This is so easy to strap onto the top of a rear rack or even just throw into the bottom of your backpack. It's easy to be prepared. The other great thing is this can even go over top of a backpack, so it can help keep your actual belongings dry as well. Another little tidbit is a lot of customers actually use these as wheelchair users. So if you're a wheelchair user and you need something to just help keep all your stuff and yourself dry and comfortable, this is a fantastic solution that can easily drape over your legs just as it would if you're riding a bike, but it keeps you nice and dry, comfortable. It's also breathable. So one consideration when choosing to use a rain cape or a poncho is obviously these are designed to drape over the handlebars. It's a good idea to be able to test fit, but considerations you may not think about if you're a first-time rain cape or poncho user is the fact that it can sometimes inhibit both your light mount depending on where it's placed. Most lights end up on the handlebars, so you may have to find some type of auxiliary or separated mount to really optimize your setup if you're planning to ride quite a lot in the rain. And similarly, bells. Bells can sometimes get muted by having the material draped over them, and obviously this goes over the handlebars. That's usually where you're gonna find a bell. That being said, I have found that most bells do not work very well in the rain, period. So it's not a bad idea to consider moisture and rain when you're thinking about your bell setup or your horn setup. This is why sometimes people opt to use like a electric horn or a air horn or some other type of horn or bell device that may not traditionally sit right on the handlebars or has that physical vibration that may be inhibited by either fabric over it or actual moisture. So what do you think? Would you consider using a rain cape or a poncho? Do you think that's a simple one and done solution, or would you prefer rain pants? I know that traditionally most people who ride in a lot of rain often opt for rain pants. Myself, I find that way too hot, and ironically, in the end, if you're wearing rain pants versus a poncho, there's a good chance you're gonna be just as wet, but the gross reality is that's not water inside your rain pants, that's just sweat. So personally, I think if you're looking for a nice warm weather riding solution, a poncho is a fantastic choice. Funny enough, even in the cool kind of shoulder season, I often just put a sweater under this and of course ride with full fenders, and I'm nice and cozy and still very dry even in kind of wet rain or even snow. So thanks so much for watching. Let us know your thoughts or if you have any questions in the comments, and we'll see you next time.